This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and our first question is, it's only fitting that we throw it to an action icon actually sitting in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Rodriguez.
I'm an independent filmmaker here in Austin. I was inspired by you. I grew up watching your movies, obviously. I saw Road Warrior in the theater. I'm old enough to have seen it. And it was the time right around when Raiders of the Lost Ark was going to come out. So I would be taking people saying, hey, if you love Raiders, you got to come see this. And we'd see it over and over and over again. And I'm still as stunned as I was back then. There were a lot of post-apocalyptic movies that came after this. This was the first. And no one has ever equaled, much less topped it. And I don't know if it was because of the success of Mad Max that gave you all that push to just really show Hollywood how it was done. Because I know that it was Australian action film was just starting up then, and you guys were doing it real for real at speed. And this is pre-CGI, and I still don't even know. I guess my question is, how the hell did you make this? Because it is go for broke cinema, like cinema verite. I mean, it feels real, speed, action, and everyone, you can feel the passion, and you can tell that everyone, yourself, I know you were trying to top what you did in Mad Max, but it seems like it inspired the whole crew and all the stunt team, because it's never been equal, and it never will, because now there's CGI and everything to help people. This was like watching it, really, it's just, you know, it's freaking checked out. But how the hell did you do it?
Well, Robert, coming from you, I'm serious. If you want to know how I made it, you just look in the mirror and answer the question yourself.
I've done movies, but not like that. I mean, that just can't be done by anybody else.
One of the peak moments in my life was this morning when I did the El Rey interview with Robert. It was a 2.5-hour conversation, and I learned things that were even more extreme. The fact is, he shot his earliest work himself, holding the white card to bounce light up into the actor's face himself. Would put the camera down, record sound, again, have the actors repeat it himself. And of course, everything else he did himself. And you know, I had a lot of help on these with a great crew, including, by the way, Guy Norris, who's the guy who did that flip. He was 21.
The greatest stunt of all time.
Yeah, and he all these years later was the stunt coordinator, second unit action director. He was like another head on my body. He was fantastic. So, you know, it carried on. I'm not answering your question, Robert. I can't. The truth is, I told you before, it was made very frenetic. I think what happened was that I spent a year editing Mad Max 1 virtually by myself, and I thought of all the things that I failed to achieve then. So this was a second chance, but it was so frenetic that it kind of came out of my gut. I didn't have time to think. Of course you think, but I didn't have really time to consider it all. But it was all informed, the gut was informed by the process of looking through all the footage of the first Mad Max. Plus I had Dean Semler and a wonderful crew. And yeah, that's sort of the shortest answer I can give.
Who's next? Sure, yes, right here.
So, George, the vehicles, these movies are all about the vehicles. The design is so great. I would love to know what your favorite vehicles from the original and the new films are.
My favorite, obviously, is the Interceptor. That sort of, you know, the old westerns, all the cowboys had their favorite horse, Trigger, and all that. That's the equivalent. It does reappear in this movie. It's very hard. I have a lot of affection for the war rig that you saw pull up into that canyon, because that's like another character. It's the kind of arc that take the little Noah's Ark that takes these creatures through the wasteland. But if I had to say which vehicle would I like to drive or own, it's a thing called the Giga Horse. You saw it briefly. It's a double Cadillac, one on top of the other. It belongs to the warlord, and it's a V16, a real V16. And they do the sign of the V8 in the story, the war boys, and you need 4 hands to do the V16. And standing next to it, it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. So I'd say that's my favorite.
Thank you. Great.
Yes, right here.
Hello, Mr. Miller. My name's Matt. But I was just wondering, you know, it's growing up as an 8-year-old when my dad first showed me, what's that, Road Warrior, and I fell in love with it throughout the years. I was wondering, as you got the opportunity throughout writing this again and being able to explore this universe, how did you come about finding your new Max? I mean, before Hardy was even in the picture, like, you know, others grew up picturing Mel Gibson as, you know, the all-time badass, I guess you'd like to say. And, you know, now that it's more of a newer generation of other kids that are just kind of like, who's Mad Max? And, you know, I was just wondering, how did you do that?
Well, he's essentially the same character. And not only is he in common to Mad Max, he's in common to a lot of mythology. In Japan, they saw him as the lone samurai, the Ronin. In some Scandinavian critics talked about him being a lone Viking, wandering their equivalent of the wasteland. And particularly in France, they saw him exactly the equivalent of the gunslinger of the Western, of the American Western, and you know, and all the derivatives, the spaghetti westerns, and so on. The one in search of himself, really, wanting nothing to do with anyone else. Obviously, a big influence on this man. The film we saw tonight was Shane and the little boy. That had a big effect on me. So he was essentially the same character, and it was for Tom Hardy to come and inhabit it and bring of himself to that process.
I'm so sorry, guys. We're going to have time for one more. I could stay here all night, but I'm sure Dr. Miller would like to get going and finish. Yes, right here.
First off, as a young filmmaker, it's my utmost pleasure to be talking to a cinematic icon. And
Not me.
so, Mad Max. Oh, sorry. No, finish, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just interrupted you.
I'll take myself. The problem with that is I take myself too seriously, and the big thing that drives you to make the film is that sweat that you say, no, it's just not good enough. I do drive people nuts trying to get it as best as it can. You know, by the time we got to Fury Road, we finished the movie 2 nights ago. The mix.
Wow.
And,
Show it!
and I said to everyone, thanks for sticking around because I know I can drive people nuts, but you're trying to get it right as much as you can.
So my question is, Mad Max is just like a beautiful combination of violence, seriousness, like commentary, and ridiculousness, and everything. How did you conjure that up?
Well, again, going back to some ground rules or backstories, and you know, it's a chase. You find out everything on the way, but you've got to pay a lot of attention to the subtext because it does seep through. It informs every bit of behaviour. Otherwise, it's just stringing a lot of stuff together. So every bit of action had to inform about the character and inform about the character and the relationship of the characters. And movies are a mosaic art. They are little bits of stuff put together to create a whole picture. And so you do that. The second thing is, to be very quick about it, just because it's the wasteland, it doesn't mean that people still can't be funny. And usually in extreme situations, we all know this, it's where the humor comes out. And the other one was, just because it's the wasteland, it doesn't mean that people can't create beauty. So you see them worshipping the steering wheels. The things that survive the apocalypse is like found art. And you go to the most impoverished places around the world, and they'll still make beautiful things. So they're the sort of things that involve the movie. Probably the biggest thing in action is to try, it's like stringing notes of music together. It's visual music, and you just don't put a lot of fast, crazy stuff together. You try to connect, just as music has a connection between one note and the next in order for it to flow and have an effect on the person listening. So therefore, each bit of action has to have that same connection, that same flow, so it seems as seamless as possible.
This has been a dream come true. I am so pleased that I was here for this. Sir, thank you so much. Thank you for showing the road again.